First Time for Everything. Written by Silverwolf96. Read by Arashi. First meeting. The first time Felix and Sylvain met, they are both very young children, and don't actually remember it very well at all. But it is something that starts the friendship that will last the rest of their lives, and eventually evolve into something more. Young Felix is already friends with Dimitri and Ingrid, and still is quite shy and not very used to meeting other people. So when Sylvain arrives, he hides behind Glenn's legs, carefully peeking out from his hiding place to observe this red-haired stranger. But eventually, after a few minutes of watching quietly, he decides this redhead is going to be his friend. With that decided, he wastes no time running from around Glenn over to the boy and throwing his arms around him in a hug, because hugs are something you give your friends. So that seems like a good place to start. Sylvain takes a few moments to realize what's even going on, but eventually he carefully hugs Felix back. The two of them go off to play somewhere, and by the end of the day, they're practically inseparable. First crush. Felix realizes he has a crush on Sylvain when he's 15. It's not something he expected, and he's not even sure when it started. All he knows is when he finally realizes it's a thing. He and Sylvain are sparring, as per usual. Felix is determined to get stronger, and since he's not attending Garreg Mach for another 2 years, the best training he's going to get is by sparring with other Fraldarius trainees, or with his friends. Dimitri is difficult to train with because he breaks things all the time. Today, though, he's training with Sylvain, who's visiting for a few days. At first, they're just sparring, same as usual, when Felix starts to notice just how much attention he's paying to how the sun makes Sylvain's hair glow, or the way he moves as he parries a blow from Felix, the way he smiles at him, or that sweat droplet that slides down his neck and over his clavicle. And then Sylvain completely ruins it by flirting with a nearby woman, causing Felix to yell at him for not taking training seriously. Their first date happens at their time at Garreg Mach, once the both of them have finally started to figure out their feelings for each other, after many, many weeks of pining from both sides. Sylvain is the one to finally break the ice between them, and asks Felix on a date. Well, asks Felix on a date is putting it generously. In reality, what he does is ask Felix if he wants to come with him to eat at this new restaurant that just opened in town, and halfway through the meal, tell Felix that, by the way, this is meant to be a date, which causes Felix to grumble at Sylvain and say he's supposed to tell it's a date before they actually go on said date, not during it. But all in all, it goes surprisingly well. The food is good, and the restaurant is nice, but nothing too fancy. They order some spicy cheesecake dessert, and Felix gives Sylvain the sweets that are decorating the top of it, and Sylvain shares some of the spicy berry decorations with Felix. It's all very sweet and romantic. There's even a candle on the table to make it extra romantic. The date ends with Sylvain walking Felix to his dorm room, 2 doors down from his own. First kiss. The first kiss, amazingly, but maybe not too surprisingly enough, happens on the same night as their first date. After walking Felix to his room, Sylvain has just enough cockiness to ask if Felix is going to invite him in. Felix simply raises an eyebrow and tells them that he doesn't sleep with people on a first date. No exceptions. The answer causes Sylvain to quickly backpedal on his words, explaining that that wasn't at all what he had in mind, and that he wouldn't try anything Felix wasn't comfortable with, when Felix interrupts him to press their lips together in a short kiss to shut him up. The unexpected, but very welcome kiss causes Sylvain to freeze in place for a few moments, and by the time he's registered what's going on, Felix has already pulled back and closed the door on him, after telling him to meet him at the training grounds early tomorrow morning. He goes to sleep that night with the biggest, goofiest smile on his face. The morning after. The first time they wake up together after a night spent together is not too long after that first date, and the first kiss. Only a couple of weeks, in fact. They wake up together when the early morning sun shines through the uncovered window, hitting them straight on.
It's morning already?
Sylvain mumbles, burying his face into Felix's hair. Felix mutters, curling up further, trying to tug up the blanket from where it's stuck underneath them both, from all the moving they did during the night. Sylvain lets this happen, more than happy to have the usually reserved Felix curled up to him like this. He presses a kiss to Felix's hair, another one to his shoulder, and even though he has to bend down somewhat uncomfortably to do so, he fishes up the blanket from somewhere around their knees and wraps it around both of them, cocooning them in warm darkness.
Too early,
he whispers softly.
Go back to sleep.